The world is watching the wrong places, while headlines blare about conflict and instability, while analysts focus on the parallel market's daily fluctuations. Iraq has been quietly, methodically expanding its global footprint. Deals are being signed, borders are opening, digital infrastructure is launching, and yet, the silence from Baghdad is almost deafening. Why is everything so quiet when so much is actually happening? Let me take you inside the expansion that nobody is talking about. On February 13th, Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani spoke by phone with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. They discuss ways to deepen bilateral ties and promote regional stability. But the core of their conversation was the Strategic Development Road Project, a massive infrastructure initiative connecting Iraq's Al-Fa Grand Port in the south, to Turkey's Order and onward to European markets. This is not a small agreement. This is a historic economic corridor that positions Iraq as a regional energy and logistics hub. The project was launched after Iraq, Turkey, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates signed a quadripartite memorandum of understanding in Istanbul in 2024. It represents a fundamental shift in Iraq's geopolitical positioning, moving from a nation defined by conflict to a nation defined by commerce. But why is everything so quiet? Because Iraq is learning to execute without announcing. It is learning to build without boasting. The Development Road Project is just one piece of a broader recalibration. According to analysis from Anahar, Iraq is gradually moving away from the singular circle of influence that has characterized its foreign policy for years and heading toward a more balanced approach based on diversifying strategic partnerships. During 2025 and 2026, clear indicators have emerged of deepening ties with Turkey on sovereign and vital issues, alongside increasing discussion of a relative decline in Iranian influence. This shift reflects the rise of a more pragmatic Iraqi approach, seeking interests that transcend traditional alignments. Al-Marsumi, a leader of the Reconstruction and Development Coalition, believes that over the past 3 years, Iraq has succeeded in attaining advanced levels of balance in its regional and international relations by adopting an approach that prioritizes national interests in all external engagements. The silence is strategic. It is the quiet of a nation that understands that real sovereignty is built through action, not announcements. Now, let me give you the domestic expansion that is equally significant. On February 9th, the Kurdistan region launched eSol, a unified electronic payment platform. Central Bank Governor Ali Alaq traveled to Erbil for the launch and praised Prime Minister Masroor Barzani's leadership in advancing digital government services. Alaq was remarkably candid about why this matters. He said, "Everyone now understands that handling transactions with cash alongside complex economic demands is no longer sustainable. Establishing a secure and transparent electronic financial system is essential to restoring citizens' confidence in the banking sector." eSol is not just another government website. It is a secure, centralized system for paying government bills electronically, operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no additional fees or commissions charged to users. For decades, government bill payments in the Kurdistan region relied heavily on physical cash collection and office visits, often resulting in long queues, high administrative costs, and inefficiencies. eSol addresses these challenges by enabling citizens to view and pay bills instantly through mobile applications, participating digital wallets, and partner banks. Alaq emphasized that the project represents a model for improving collaboration between the public and private sectors while adapting to global financial transformations. He said, "We fully support all initiatives implemented in the Kurdistan region. Electronic payments are not just an option, they are a necessity for increasing transparency and financial capacity across the country." The silence around this launch is striking. A digital transformation that would be celebrated in any other country barely registered in international news. But that is precisely the point. Iraq is not seeking applause, It is seeking results. On the same day, Alaq met with Prime Minister Barzani and representatives of several Iraqi and Kurdistan region banks to discuss advancing banking reforms and digital financial services. They focused on the My Account and eSol projects, which aim to modernize financial transactions and expand digital payment systems. Barzani expressed his appreciation for the central bank's ongoing reforms aimed at strengthening Iraq's financial system. Now, let me give you the customs expansion that is fundamentally changing how Iraq interacts with the global economy. On February 11, the Director General of the Iraqi General Customs Authority, Thamer Qasim, announced that the Kurdistan region has begun responding to the unification of customs tariffs with federal border crossings. He confirmed advanced understandings with the region to implement the ASYCUDA electronic system across all points of entry. This is the quiet expansion of state authority. For years, one of the largest leaks in Iraq's financial system was the differential between federal and Kurdistan region customs duties. Traders would import goods through the region, pay lower tariffs, and then smuggle those goods into federal Iraq without paying the difference. The dollars that should have flowed into the central bank's reserves instead flowed into private pockets. That leak is now being sealed. Qasim was explicit about who is affected by this change. He stated that those affected are traders operating outside the customs and tax systems, as their financial transfers are not registered in the ASYCUDA system and they lack tax accountability. Entry into ASYCUDA requires both an import license and a tax identification. He explained that the customs tariff decision does not cover all goods, but rather the most imported commodities that annually drain hard currency reserves. The objective is to rationalize imports, preserve the US dollar, prevent the outflow of currency in exchange for low-quality goods, and support national industry. Dozens of projects have obtained industrial development and investment licenses, including pharmaceutical factories, food production plants, and industrial facilities producing oxygen. Essential materials are now being produced by local factories and Iraqi companies, providing employment opportunities. This is the expansion of Iraq's productive capacity. It is happening quietly, but it is happening. Now, let me give you the international cooperation that undergirds all of this expansion. On February 5, Governor Alaq met with U.S. Chargé d'Affaires Joshua Harris in Baghdad. They discussed prospects for strengthening the strategic partnership between the two countries and stressed the importance of supporting monetary and economic stability, in line with the requirements of political and security stability in Iraq. Harris affirmed the United States' commitment to strengthening its relations with Iraq and supporting all efforts aimed at consolidating stability. He praised the significant reform initiatives undertaken by the Central Bank of Iraq, as well as its distinguished and productive relationship with the U.S. Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve. Harris expressed his full readiness to continue supporting the efforts of the Central Bank of Iraq, enabling it to achieve its objectives in enhancing financial and monetary stability. This is the quiet expansion of international trust. The United States is not just watching Iraq, it is actively supporting its reforms. On February 16, the second Kark investigation court recovered 30 billion Iraqi dinars in a financial fraud case. The money was recovered from a company that violated the law by fraudulently profiting from exchange rate differences through cross-border money transfers. The court announced that efforts are ongoing to pursue legal action against other companies that employ illegal methods to obtain large profits that harm public funds. This is the expansion of the rule of law. It is happening quietly, but it is happening. Now, let me address the question that is on your mind. If Iraq is expanding so significantly, why is everything so quiet? Why aren't there press conferences, celebrations, and headlines? The answer lies in Governor Alaq's February 10 interview with Ruda. He revealed that more than 80% of Iraq's 100 trillion dinar money supply exists outside the banking system, primarily linked to tax evasion and non-disclosure in the trade sector. He explained that if money owners feel reassured about the existence of a fair and transparent tax system, they will bring their money and deposit it in banks. The silence is strategic. It is the quiet of a government that understands that the 80% is watching. If reforms are announced with fanfare, the shadow economy adapts. If enforcement is telegraphed, evasion finds new channels. The silence is not emptiness. It is the sound of a government that has learned to move without warning, to build without boasting, to expand without announcing. Alaq was explicit about the government's position on customs reforms. He said, applying the tariff, applying the ASYCUDA system, and applying the Advanced Customs Declaration. The government is proceeding with it. He called the measures beneficial beyond fiscal gains. On February 8, hundreds of traders protested in Baghdad, shutting down markets across the capital. They hung banners reading customs fees are killing citizens. But the government did not back down. MP Shagadi al-Zaidi dismissed the protests as an attempt to muddy the waters and stated the government would not reverse its implementation of the system. Baha al-Araji, head of the Construction and Development Bloc, explained that objections were motivated by private interests rather than the public good. The General Authority of Customs announced that revenues exceeded 137 billion Iraqi dinars in January, attributing the increase to the implementation of the new tariff decision. It rejected social media claims that the new tariff caused revenue losses, stating the reality was entirely the opposite. The silence is the sound of a government that will not be deterred by protests, that will not be distracted by criticism, that will not be stopped by vested interests. Now, let me give you the security context that frames all of this expansion. Iraqi-Turkish relations experienced a qualitative leap in late 2025, marked by expanded security cooperation and the activation of joint agreements to address border challenges. This strengthens Ankar's role as a key player in the stability of northern and western regions. The Water Cooperation Protocol and its implementation mechanisms highlighted Baghdad's recognition of the water crisis's sensitivity and its commitment to pursuing practical solutions through direct partnerships. Security and military expert Makald Hazem observes that Iraq has begun taking advanced steps to become an active and influential player in its regional environment. Yet this progress still faces security and sovereignty challenges, particularly in managing the relationship with Turkey, where interests intersect with sensitive issues such as borders, armed organizations, and water. Academic and researcher Ghalib al-Dami provides a more cautious perspective, noting that there is a containment process of Iranian influence within Iraq, and observing that Ankara represents part of a broader project to rearrange the balances in the region. He cautions against replacing one influence with another, stating, "We do not want to move from Iranian influence to Turkish influence." He emphasizes that the real challenge facing the Iraqi leadership is to make Baghdad influential and active, not subordinate. The expansion is real, but it is also delicate. It requires balance, caution, and strategic patience. That is another reason for the silence. Loud announcements would provoke reactions. Quiet execution allows the expansion to proceed without unnecessary interference. So, why is everything so quiet? Because Iraq is finally learning the art of strategic silence. The development road project advances without daily press releases. The eSol platform launches without global fanfare. The customs system unifies without celebratory speeches. The U.S. partnership deepens without dramatic announcements. The financial fraud cases proceed without media circuses. The silence is not the silence of inaction. It is the silence of execution. It is the quiet of a nation that understands that real transformation happens beneath the surface, beyond the headlines, away from the noise. Alaq put it perfectly when he said, "If money owners feel reassured about the existence of a fair and transparent tax system, they will bring their money and deposit it in banks." Reassurance requires quiet confidence, not nosy declarations. It requires consistent action, not dramatic announcements. It requires the silence of a government that knows what it is doing and simply does it. Iraq is expanding globally. The Development Road project will connect the Gulf to Europe. The digital platforms are modernizing financial transactions. The customs system is unifying the country. The international partnerships are diversifying and deepening. The rule of law is recovering stolen funds. And it is all happening quietly. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is happening. The silence is the sound of execution. The question is whether you have the patience to listen to what it is really saying.